Last semester, I had to reschedule my computer science exam to take it in another computer science class with 100 other computer science majors. I went into the classroom and I was very stressed out about my final, looking through my notes, and I couldn't help but notice a lot of people were staring at me. Some people were pointing, others were whispering, and I just kept thinking, how do these people know that I don't belong in this class when there are so many students? And then I realized they knew I didn't belong in the class because I was the only woman in the entire room. I decided to change this. I started researching women in computer science. Basically, I spend my time trying to think about how we can prevent things like this, and more recently, things like this from happening, the rise of the programmer. Because the only thing more comforting to women than a room full of white nerdy dudes who don't know how to talk to them is a room full of frat stars that don't know how to talk to them. Only 1 in 5 Americans consider themselves feminist, and before I started this research, I didn't consider myself a feminist either. But as I started researching, I realized that the thing tying academic research studies that were CS specific, like Schoolgirls, with more popular books like Clean In, was the confidence gap. Overall, women just aren't as confident as men. In college, women will rate themselves lower on virtually every single scale than their male peers. From writing ability to popularity to how well they would perform as a physician, women just don't believe in themselves as much as men do. And the simple act of checking an F off for female on a math test means that a woman will perform worse because of the gender stereotypes in STEM. A woman wearing a bikini will also do worse if she's taking a test than a woman wearing sweatpants, just showing a link between confidence and ability. In the computer science program, confidence in your ability is actually more important than ability. It's a better predictor for if you will stay in the program. So let's talk about feminism. You can't be a feminist without first understanding what feminism is. Put simply, a feminist is someone who believes that men and women should have equal opportunities in all arenas. If I pick someone from the audience and I ask you if you believe that, you're most likely to say yes. But if I ask the same person if they're a feminist, they're most likely to say no. Why is this? It's because the connotation with the word feminism is much different than the definition. Over the years, different generations has built different connotations to help them accomplish their own goals. This is my grandmother. Our grandmothers had very overt problems to deal with, and sometimes those problems required extreme solutions. Until the 1970s, a woman could get fired for getting pregnant or for getting married. There was also no federal law banning marital rape. Women's health was largely still a mystery. In fact, women couldn't even run marathons until the 1980s because for some reason people thought their uteruses would fall out of their bodies while running. No idea where that came from. My grandmother and women like her fought for a world where a woman could do anything a man could do, and they created that world for us using feminism. My grandmother helped. She earned her PhD and was a primary breadwinner in her household for a time. To this day, my grandfather still does the dishes and the cooking. This is my mother. Our mothers were told that they could do anything they wanted to do, be anything they wanted to be. But once they got into the work environment, they realized that although they could do anything, they could not do everything. They had to make tough choices. Even when husband and wife worked full-time jobs, the woman still did 3 times as much housework and 4 times as much childbearing as her husband. A lot of women just realized that they couldn't cut it, and they dropped out of the workforce in droves. Feminism failed these women, and this is really where the backlash to feminism began. These women also taught us a very important lesson about success. They showed that success in a career doesn't necessarily have to be a career ladder where you climb one rung after the next and there's only one way to get to the top. It can be a career jungle gym where you jump back and forth between home and work life as your priorities change. My mother taught me this as well. She worked at IBM as a software engineer until my brother was born, dropped out of the workforce for a time, and then went back to work and is now a very successful entrepreneur. Then there's us. What will we do for women? How will we change feminism to deal with the problems of our day? Well, first we have to think about the problems. 89% of engineers are men. Only 37% of all news stories in all platforms are produced by women. These two statistics alone show us that we're still living in a world that's both created by and represented to us by men. At the top 50 US colleges, less than 1/3 of student body presidents are women. And while 95% of male executives are married, 3/4 of which have stay-at-home wives, female executives are much more likely to be divorced, never married, or childless. And with the pay gap, even when women pay themselves as entrepreneurs, they earn less than their male counterparts. So we all want to know, how can we eliminate this gender inequality? What we should be asking is, how can we eliminate the confidence gap? Because while there are still systematic problems keeping women down, for example, the lack of affordable access to childcare, a lot of these decisions women are making themselves. For example, they're choosing not to apply for that job, not to ask for that raise, to wait their turn for that promotion that they've always wanted, not to run for that seat in office, not to get that computer science degree. The problem with the confidence gap is it's so difficult to overcome. We're taught very early how to act as women. We're taught to be obedient, to speak quietly, to not be risk takers. We're taught our whole lives how we should act. We're taught by other women to constantly pick apart the flaws in our bodies. We're taught to hide our successes, but to scream out our failures. This is important for my research in particular. I'll give you an example to illustrate it. I'm on the stage today. I'm a woman. I'm most likely to say, I'm giving this TED Talk because I was lucky, because my friends supported me, because my mother and grandmother were good role models for me. And while that all is true, if I were a man, I'd be most likely to say, I'm giving this TED Talk because I'm intelligent and awesome, therefore you should listen to me. The women do that, but when they fail, for example, if a woman fails a computer science test, she's likely to think, I don't belong in the computer science major. This is too difficult for me. While a man is likely to think, that teacher is just crazy. Because this is how men and women think, men can retain their confidence even when they fail, while a woman can take hits to her confidence even when she succeeds. In my research, this is played out in grades. So a man is likely to go on to the next class in the computer science sequence, even if he has a C in his last class, while a woman will consider her fit in computer science and possibly drop out even with an A in her last class. So to solve gender inequality, we need to solve the confidence gap. To solve the confidence gap, we need to empower women. There is no better way to empower women than feminism. And not just women, we need more men on the team of feminism as well. I recently heard a single father say, I'm a feminist and I'm trying to raise my 8-year-old daughter to be a feminist as well. We need more fathers like that. The problem with this is that a lot of people think feminism is radical, which it's not radical. People think this because feminists today often have a long list where you have to check off every box in order to join the team. For example, you need to not shave your armpits, to buy organic produce, to be a Democrat. There's a long list, and everyone has different check boxes. I'd like to propose a new version of feminism. You do you feminism. In this version of feminism, there is only one checkbox that you need to check, and here it is. We're going to do this quiz together. We're going to read the question. Everyone, question 1. Everyone, do I believe in the equality of the sexes? So you don't have to answer out loud, but if you're saying yes, congratulations, you're a feminism, good job. You're a feminist, good job. If you said no, you can just stop paying attention because really there isn't gonna be anything else for you in this talk. So you said yes. How do you grapple with this new part of your identity? How do you practice you to you feminism? I've got 3 guidelines for you. Number 1, practice being consciously conscious. We've spent our entire lives being unconsciously conscious to the things going on around us. So you haven't noticed it, but you've changed your behavior based on society's pushes against you. There's a famous study called the roaming radius study. Researchers went out and they watched mothers playing with their children on the playground. They noticed that the mothers would let their male children wander twice as far before being called back as they would let their female children wander. This has taught you over time, if you're a woman, that you shouldn't take as many risks. There's studies like this at every single aspect of your life. For example, in middle school, multiple researchers have shown that teachers, whether male or female, will call on their male students more. If you're a man, this has taught you that someone will listen to you if you have something to say, that you should raise your hand, that you shouldn't worry necessarily if it's right, that it'll be okay if you say something wrong. If you're a woman, you've been taught that before you answer a question, you need to say it 3 to 5 times in your head. Then, if you're still confident with it, you can raise your hand about halfway. If the teacher doesn't call on a man before you, which is likely if there's a man raising their hand, they'll call on you, at which point you have to say your statement as if it's a question, raising your voice at the end. So if you recognize these pushes that society has placed on you, you can build up a barrier by being consciously conscious. 2, destroy your own confidence gap and help others do the same. Over the summer, I was interning, and I went to a luncheon with the interns and several executives for the company I was working for. There was a table in the center of the room where the executives were already sitting, and there was chairs on the perimeter of the room where there was overflow seating. Maybe 3 or 4 interns were gonna have to sit on the perimeter of the room. But I was one of the last interns to go into the room, and when I went in, all 10 of the female interns were already sitting on the perimeter. There were so many empty chairs at the table. These women had decided to sit on the perimeter to give someone else a spot, which is surely nice. I went in there, and I asked myself a question, which I ask myself a lot, which is, if I was a man, what would I do in this situation? If I had been a man, I would not have considered the people coming after me. I would have sat down and started talking to the executives, which is what I did. After the luncheon, one of the other female interns came up to me and said, I really wish that I could have done that. You got a lot more attention. I wanted to get that. And I said, well, why don't you? And the next time she did. One of the best ways to practice feminism is to show other women how confident you are, and if you're a man, to sponsor that confidence in women. 3, surround yourself with other powerful women and advocate for them. So this is actually part of Shine theory, which is a theory by freelance journalist Anne Friedman, who writes a lot about women's issues, and she wrote the following: when you meet a woman who is intimidatingly witty, stylish, beautiful, and professionally accomplished, befriend her. Surrounding yourself with the best people doesn't make you look worse by comparison, it makes you better. So if you're a woman, you've probably thought, I really want to get this position on this committee. There's 5 people on the committee, so there's probably going to be 1 woman and 1 black person. Because that's how we've come in society. That's how we've come with our isms. And if you're a woman, you're probably thinking, okay, all I need to do is beat out Sally, and then I'll have that position. We need to stop thinking like this. We need to advocate for other women beyond tokenism and bring more diverse populations onto the team. So if you couldn't get on board with your grandmother's bra-burning feminism or your mother's failed feminism, I hope that you can get on board with the you do you feminism, and let's turn 1 in 5 into 100%. Thank you.